we're going to experience an interesting time learning a little bit about how William Fisher talks about sin and life after death. I thought this would be so interesting. Life after death, that's always such an interesting and mysterious subject, right? However, we get to start with sin. How about that?
Mm-hmm.
So let me bring up hold on a second. Let me share my screen with you guys. All right, now can you see Ponder This?
Yes.
Yes.
Good, good. Well, darn it.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I got to be careful how I move things around. I'm going to try to move you guys up at the top. There you go. And if I move this, just, I'm not touching that. Okay, ponder this. Now, so Mr. Fisher started to talk about his own experiences as a little boy or young man growing up. And he starts talking about how sin is viewed as degrading to the person and religion is designed to upgrade people. So the way religion has used the concept of sin, however, he says, is questionable. If religion has used the accusation that a person has sinned in order to make him or her feel more guilty and therefore more dependent on the church for salvation, this is indeed a questionable tactic. And if the church has a person's feeling of sinfulness and use this to make the person fearful of a burning hereafter, then the ethic of this approach is also questionable. So I'm interested right now in each of us sharing what our perspective is around sin. I'll start. So when I was growing up, I just recall just about any and everything I did was sinful. If I, just like Fisher talks about, if I overate, it was sinful. If I didn't eat all the food on my plate, that was sinful because children in China didn't have enough food to eat. Y'all heard that before?
The old children in China. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Why were they even worried about the children in the U.S., right? I don't get it. But that was some, and let's see, what was another big one?
I have to, can I say something about that?
Yeah.
Mine was the children in Africa.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
And my brother almost got all of us a whooping because he said, even if I do eat all of this food, the children in Africa are still going to be starving.
Amen.
You know what? That was talking back. I'm surprised y'all didn't get a whipping.
Well, we got house to get one, but I think my mom was so shocked she was just like,
I can't believe this child said this to me. Right?
exactly.
I remember thinking that too. Well, how is that going to help the children in China? You know, I remember thinking that, but I didn't have the nerve to say it. No, I would have got hit.
Okay, so anybody else, what was your experience like growing up with the subject of sin in the house?
I was, they tried to raise me as a little Catholic girl. And so we had, back then, we had confession. I don't know what they do now, but it was a big thing.
Yeah.
So on Saturday, we would go to church and confess our sins. And then on Sunday, we could receive Holy Communion because we cleaned our souls. Now, I guess you couldn't do anything between when you confessed and when you got the host. And so my little girlfriend, my BFF Katie, and I, at that time, it was a big thing. So they always had at least 2 priests hearing confessions, and sometimes more. And so we would go, and I guess we never did believe in sin because we would sit together in the pew for a little while and we'd make up, they seemed to want 3 sins. So, and we did this every time we went to confession. We'd make up 3 sins between us. And then she would go to one priest and I'd go to the other priest, and that was it, you know. And they were things like, I fought with my brother. I wasted food.
Oh gosh.
You know, I talked back to whoever.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And to this day, you know, I don't really believe in sin. I believe in moral conduct. You know, there are things that we need to do as human beings, things that are ethical, and and there are things that we shouldn't do. And if you want to call those sins, that's fine. There are some things that we as humans do, as we all know, it's like, where did that come from?
Exactly.
But yeah, sin, not so much for me.
Okay, who else wants to chime in?
I will. My experience was with the Catholic Church as well. And I had similar experience, except I didn't make things up. I went in and told the truth. I said I talked back to my mother. I was nasty to my sister, you know, things like that. And the only thing I remember about knowing what sin was if I was not obedient at home, or if I didn't go to church. That was, you know, that was a mortal sin. The others were venial sins. And so that was it. I never really thought about sin very much, other than I'm going to go to hell if I don't go to church.
Was that no church? Was that a mortal sin?
Oh, you had to go every Sunday. Yeah, if you didn't go to church on Sunday, that was a mortal sin.
I don't remember that. You know, Catholics have classifications of sin. A venial sin is not too bad. A mortal sin is pretty terrible. And then what?
You go to hell for mortal sin, and venial sin, you only go to purgatory.
And sacrilege was like you're out of the church, I think.
I don't know. I don't know.
So Debbie, what about you?
It's kind of, you know, I grew up Baptist, so we didn't have confession, but, you know, I told you I really didn't buy into all of that, and it wasn't that forced in my family. And we knew, you know, dancing was a sin, and but I did it anyway, and so did my parents. So let's see, dancing was a sin, cussing was a sin, but I didn't feel any fear, I guess, that, you know, anything would happen. And now I don't think about sin that much. I don't think about it that much.
Well, good, because it's a waste of energy.
Yeah, I think it's I don't know, kind of judgmental, and I don't know. I don't think about it that much.
Well, let's see what Dr. Fisher says. Would someone read this first paragraph?
I'll read.
Okay.
Most religions give a lot of attention to the subject of sin. This is because sin is degrading to the person, and religion is designed to upgrade people. The way religion has used the concept of sin, however, is questionable. If religion has used the accusation that a person has sinned in order to make him or her feel more guilty and therefore more dependent on the church for salvation, this is indeed a questionable tactic. And if the church has taken a person's feeling of sinfulness and used this to make the person fearful of a burning hereafter, the ethic of this approach is also questionable. Yeah. When I was growing up, we were taught that if you broke any of the 10 commandments, you had sinned. Thou should not steal, kill, and those sorts of things. So I probably broke a whole lot of those commandments, but we were always taught, you ask God for forgiveness, you forgiven. So, hey, and it's unfortunate, you can't never ask for forgiveness and not be forgiven. So,
Yeah.
I don't worry about sin too much anymore. I just ask for forgiveness every night before I go to bed.
Good. I love Reverend Carol, what she used this description of sin, self-inflicted nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly how I feel. Self-inflicted nonsense, just moving away from the reality of who we are in God, and God being part of our whole nature.
And of life.
And of life. It's almost impossible to take that on as a belief. I can't imagine doing that. He had 3 different areas that he grew up with regards to classifying his sin. It was dinner time, where he didn't eat, if he didn't eat all his food, or swearing, if he cussed, or sexual behavior. So the reference to eating everything on the plate was something that parents tend to use as a way to manipulate us. Parents did that.
Mm-hmm.
And then using God's name in vain, well, there's a lot to say about that. What about you guys? Were you told that you'd burn in hell if you use God's name in vain?
I don't remember being told that, but I don't even know what that means.
Well, he describes this as such. Let's see if I have it up here. All right, someone please read those 2 paragraphs.
I'll read. Taking the Lord's name in vain was another matter. Usually, the curse words that were condemned came from the New Testament. To use the name of Jesus Christ, or any part of it, during an expression of anger or hostility is certainly immature. There is no question in my mind that such use of the Master's name is wrong. But we must remember that the commandment, "You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain," was given to us through the Old Testament. What was the name of the Lord according to Moses, who gave us this commandment? It certainly was not Jesus Christ. God gave Moses the name during the experience of the burning bush. You will recall that Moses wanted to know whose voice it was who spoke to him. That voice, the voice of God, identified as, "I am who I am." When Moses wanted some authority for returning to Egypt, this same divine voice said, "Say this to the people of Israel, I am has sent me to you." Keep this in mind, because one of your alternatives on the subject of sin lies within this information.
Okay, so I am, that used incorrectly would be classified as sinful. What do you get from this?
That God resides in you.
Yeah. Say more about that, Sarah.
Well, if the I am who I am, So that to me means that God is within each of us. And I don't know what else to say about that. That's kind of heavy. I got to think on that one.
Well, I don't know that using I am would be considered sinful. I think what it would really be considered is power,
Power.
not using your power in the right and correct way, because anything you say after I am is a confirmation in what will be revealed in your life, in your spirit. So yeah, using I am should be considered very holy, a very spiritual act, if you will. Anybody want to chime in and say something about that?
Well, maybe I'm thinking if you flip it and you do use the term God in vain, you're actually damaging yourself.
Yes, because why, Debbie?
Because God is within us. We
Why?
have God in us.
This
So
is
it's a negativity on us within.
exactly. So it's just like saying, I am financially poor. That is going to be your experience. Or I'm sick today. I am sick today. That is going to be your experience, as opposed to the alternative to that. My body may not feel well, but I am fine. Makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
Anybody had something else to say with regards to that?
Well, I understand it and I agree with it up to a certain point. You know, certainly any self-deprecating remarks are like, I am such an idiot, or I am stupid, or those just aren't good for your psyche at all. And we need to, you know, keep a positive attitude and know that, okay, something we did may have been less than perfect, but it doesn't mean that I am stupid. But, you know, I know sometimes, to me, sometimes it's almost carried to extremes. Like if you know, my example is somebody loses a loved one, and so technically you're not supposed to say, I'm so sorry. Well, I do, you know, and I don't then believe that I am a sorry person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's got to be a little bit of brain power going on at the same time, you know?
I am very cautious about that. I am sorry, because I used to say it until going through some of these courses and recognize, well, if that I am phrase is the same as God, another name for God, and whatever follows that I am, I may need to rearrange my wording when I'm speaking.
Yeah, I get it. I understand it. I just don't agree with
I
it.
don't agree with it. Yeah.
I agree
Yeah.
with Mary. I always have thought that there are some places where the I am statement is not appropriate and you're taking on something that you shouldn't. And there are other instances where it's perfectly fine and it really doesn't mean that you're taking on that negativity. Like she said, when you say to someone, I'm so sorry, you're expressing sympathy, and I don't believe that that's a situation that he's talking about.
I mean, really, are you going to walk up to that person and say, I regret your loss?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, right. That's the
That
alternative.
doesn't ring true to me.
Right. It's a little bit, it's, too formal, especially.
What
So
do you say?
So what you're saying is the intention that you have prior to making the statement.
I believe that's true, for me anyway.
Yeah, that's how I feel too.
Yeah.
I don't I'm sitting here seriously thinking about this because I've never liked the phrase, I am sorry, because I don't feel like I'm a sorry person. It's just that I put a reverse meaning to it or something like that. And I hardly ever say that. And like if I know somebody who's had someone pass in their family or something, I basically never say I'm sorry. I always just say I'm extending my condolences to you and praying for you and your family. And if there's anything I can do for you, please let me know. And I will do whatever they, that I can for them. But I kind of steer away from the I'm sorry phrase.
Yeah.
What is
And
it?
it wasn't even because I knew this. This is something brand new that makes me even feel more about not saying that. But I know a lot of people that's very, very, it comes out of their mouth very easily, and they mean it, and they mean it in a different way than way I see it. You know what I'm saying?
So yeah, it's basically really essentially means that you should be aware of your
The
intent.
word is sorrowful. They're feeling sorrowful for the person. They're not saying that I'm sorry. I'm a sorry person.
It's an expression. It's just an expression, a way of expressing your sympathy for them and your feeling of sadness with them. It's just an expression.
Yes, exactly.
And then and your intention. Thank you. Okay, let's see what else is Mr. Fisher wants to share with us. Okay, somebody please read those 2 paragraphs.
I will. The third area of sin dealt with moral behavior. If we are inclined toward reckless promiscuity in our immoral behavior, it is often a symptom of a poor self-image. A person who thinks well of him or herself is not inclined toward this kind of behavior pattern. I do not know if such behavior is a sin against God, but I am sure that it is a sin against ourselves. If we truly believe that we are spiritual beings, how is it possible to degrade ourselves through any behavior we deem as demeaning? So in this area of sin, we need to take a good look at how we really feel about ourselves and our actions. Traditionally, sin has been defined as a missing of the mark. This means falling short of our highest potential. There are obviously many ways that we can and do fall short. The important thing to remind ourselves is that such falling short does not have to be a permanent life experience. There is a definite remedy for it.
Okay, Maddie.
Okay.
that was a lot. What do you want to say about what you just read?
Well, I'm not sure what he was saying in the first instance. Promiscuity or moral behavior. I do not know if such a behavior is a sin against God. Is he really saying that? But
I do not know if such behavior is a sin against God, but I'm sure that it is a sin against ourselves.
Well, I agree with that, but I think it's also,
if we
I was still in the Catholic Church, it would definitely be a sin against God. I mean, it feels like that's what you would call a sin when you're immoral. To me, it is.
And then we look at Mr. Fisher himself, who, as a minister, writing this book at a time before I think we were very cognizant about recognizing, because he's not really clear in his writing about we are God is in us and we are in God. He's not really specific in his writing about that. So the second part of that really rings true. And if the second part is true, then the first part has to be rewritten from my perspective.
What do you think he means when he says it how is it possible to degrade ourselves through any behavior we deem as demeaning? I don't understand what he's saying here.
Oh, and if you don't deem promiscuity as demeaning, then you're not degrading yourself.
Right.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so that's your perception. Maybe
To
promiscuity.
me, it's your perception.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, got it.
So in this area of sin, we need to take a good look at how we really feel about ourselves and our actions. So it's really pointing right back to us.
Yeah, and to me, this is really in the neighborhood of opinion.
You're right.
Yes, it
Very
is.
much
It
so.
is. It is, absolutely.
You're right, because who's to say what's moral or immoral?
Exactly.
Yeah,
For
Yeah.
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 Yeah, because I was enjoying my promiscuity. I ain't
All right.
In the days when I was promiscuous, it was always great. That's all I can say. I have fond memories of promiscuity.
Oh,
But you guys, you're missing one very important word is reckless.
where do you see reckless?
Inclined towards reckless.
From
No, yeah, reckless. But who's to say what's reckless as well, Darcy?
We are
You know?
inclined toward reckless promiscuity.
Right.
promiscuity. Uh-huh.
It was reckless. Well, what does reckless mean when you add it with promiscuity?
That means you're harming yourself. You
You're
can
throwing
be promiscuous,
the
but
wind.
don't harm yourself.
Yeah, I think it's when you put yourself in a situation, you're just being not responsible for what you're doing, and you're being quite reckless, where you may not be hurting yourself, but you may certainly be hurting others. I can
Okay.
recklessly drive and make it, but cause all kind of havoc behind me.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can recklessly lead a life of lying and being disrespectful for people and feel that I'm okay with it, but have no idea how this is affecting the people around me.
Yes. That would be reckless.
That's to me, that's what that says to me.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I like that explanation.
Yeah, because reckless is that's the big word right there.
Yeah.
Because if you're fooling around, I guess, with somebody else's husband or something, that could become reckless promiscuity.
The two of you may not be hurting together, but you're hurting that other person.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Especially if you end up with child.
Oh, Lord.
Yes. Yes. But I mean, I think reckless is that's what stood out to me.
Yeah.
That's definitely a key word.
Yes, it is,
Yeah.
Darcy. And thanks
Most
for
definitely.
I'm
glad you pointed that one out because I was getting a little worried there for a minute.
We were worried.
It was fun while it lasted, but then we came to our moral senses.
Yes, indeed. Okay, anybody else have more to say about those two paragraphs? All right, let's see what else Mr. Fisher has to say. Who would like to read these two paragraphs?
I will.
Thank you, ma'am.
Consider the quality of our words. As mentioned, the name of God as revealed to Moses is I am. This means that anytime we use the words I am associated with any quality that would degrade or betray our spiritual character, we are taking the Lord's name in vain. Anytime we say I am sick or I am poor or I am angry, we are associating the name of God with qualities that are the antithesis of the true character of God. Herein lies our alternative. To use the words I am in this way is much more subtle profanity than the kind usually thought of as profane. Therefore, the ill effects of such an association can creep into our lives without our realizing what we have done to ourselves. Our words do have a tremendous effect upon our well-being. Therefore, it is important that we never associate the words I am with anything less than the qualities we normally associate with God. We need to affirm, I am well and strong. I am alive with the joy of God. I am rich with God's bountiful supply. This is to use the name of God as it was intended to be used.
Okay, that's a lot. Let's go back up to that top paragraph, Mary.
Mhm.
How does that speak to you?
Yeah, and again, I think I kind of addressed it before. You know, I get what is being said, and I even agree with what is being said, that we don't constantly affirm negative things for ourselves because, you know, really words have meaning. By the same token, if you know, if I'm in the hospital and somebody calls and says, "How are you doing?" and I say, "Oh, I'm so sick. I have a fever right now," and blah 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 blah. I don't think that's drawing negativity to myself. I'm just letting that person know how I am. So I guess for me, overall, what we allow into our lives should be positive. It's positive words, positive people, and we try not to have negativity actually within our lives. But I don't think that I'm just going to blow the wad if I tell Maddie one day, I am so sick, Maddie. You know, I don't think that's going to all of a sudden change how I feel inside. You know what I mean? So.
But maybe we can take those times and try to remember to say, I feel sick rather than I am sick.
Yes, and I agree to say I feel or is certainly.
Then you're not claiming it, you're just saying how you feel, and that's
It's ideal. It's ideal. You know, it's like when I do a prayer request and I write that so and so is free from the appearance of illness.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, and I agree with that. I'm just saying, if I happen to say I'm sick,
right. You're not really claiming it.
I'm not claiming
it for yourself, yeah,
at all, because you know I do surround myself with positivity.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So that's very interesting. So, and leave out the word am and just say I have a fever.
I have.
My arm is hurting. My foot is sore. And I am praying to get better real soon.
I am praying.
Yes. Yeah. And I hope to feel better soon or something like that maybe, but leave the I am out of the negative words.
Yeah, because they're so powerful and they're packed with energy. So here again, though, I believe there's something also powerful about the intention with which we say these words.
Yeah.
And so to your point, Mary, if you're saying it with no intention, then it's not going to have the same effect for you as it would be for somebody who is drowning in this, I am sick.
Yeah. And there are those who just are constantly, I am sick, I am poor, I am this, I am that.
Yes.
Yeah. No.
And those type things to stay down too. I have a friend.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, and they seem to never rise from the occasion for some reason.
Yeah.
But I agree that intention and motive are always in every situation.
That's it, Maggie.
Important.
That's it.
I like that, Maddie. Motive, intention and motive.
Yeah, really, they're important, no matter what.
Very, very.
Very good point, Maddie.
Thank you.
This is enlightening, guys. Okay, so what's in this second paragraph that we might need to pull apart? So what is our alternative?
I think what we just said.
Said it.
I
We
think we
could
covered.
say, I have a fever or I have a pain, as opposed to saying I am sick.
So
I
we
think
need
that's our
to affirm, so we need to affirm I am well and strong. Even if the appearance is I really do have a fever. So we're not denying that. However, we want to affirm what is our reality in spirit. I am alive with the joy of God. I am rich with God's bountiful supply. This is to use the name of God as it was intended to be used. So, could someone read this one?
The alternative definition of sin is living under a false sense of separation from God. It is a false sense of separation because we cannot actually be separated from God. God is our very spirit, the life that pulsates in and through our beings.
Now, isn't that powerful? I could take that on. I could just drink that. Mhm. That quenches my thirst right there.
Living under a false sense of separation from God.
Yes.
Yep.
Highlight that in your book.
Yeah, I'll print that one. I don't have a book.
Okay, so do a screenshot.
Just
All
do it.
right. So now we're getting ready to move away from sin. You glad?
No, I kind of like sin.
Oh, come on, just say that.
No, let's move away from sin. Let's go ahead.
Oh my God, I need to have a drink on that.
Mm.
Okay. Well, I couldn't wait to get to this part.
Me too.
This is good and juicy, guys. This is good and juicy. Before we even get there to life after death, wouldn't it be great if we talked about life first and then talk about life after death? And I'm going to read something from In the Flow of Life by Eric Butterworth. Okay, so what about death? Is life a dead-end street? Is our existence limited to that period between birth and death in which we should eat, drink, and be merry? For a grim reaper awaits us all in tomorrow. The concept of the flow is an effective means of dealing with the limitations of human experience, but is rendered inoperative when faced with the void beyond life. What then is life? There are many definitions of life, but most of them are poetic abstractions with little relevance to living. The word life is used in many ways, implying widely different meanings. So the reason that the passing of a loved one is such a shattering experience is that our frame of reference is too small. Like living in the flat world of pre-Columbus times, there is a point out there, quote unquote, out there, where the journeyer on the seas of life simply falls off into oblivion. How freeing is it to know life as a universal flow? The flow is personalized in you as you. Personalized in you as you. You're an integral part of the universe. You are an integral part of the universe, where each part contains within it all the elements of the whole. Thus there is that of you that is more than your physical body, and the you that transcends the body is a time-space parenthesis in the universal dimension of eternity. The important thing is that you are a unique individuation of God. Whatever else life is, you are in it. You are its livingness. You are here. You are alive and living. But where did you come from? Where will you go when you die? What are you like? Why are you like you are? And why are other people like they are? Why are people so different and yet fundamentally so alike? Oh my gosh. So, unless we have a view of life that transcends even death, then we're always going to be afraid of it. And we're dreaded. So he talks about a person who experiences a loved one who has a seemingly untimely death. And then this woman or man or couple, what have you, walks away from their religious beliefs. Let's say it was a child. So one would consider a child's death as very untimely, right? Mm-hmm. He says, now I wonder if there is a God. This proves the weakness of trying to understand God through trouble. So that's why we do these classes, so we can get to understand the reality of who we are and who others are in God. So life is whole, the universe is whole. Even though we may experience this wholeness in part, there is that of us that is changeless and deathless, that is integrally and eternally involved in the universe. On the earth, Browning says this, and Browning is another author. He's a poet of some sort. He says, on the earth, there's a broken ark, and in the heavens, the perfect round. And I emailed, and I didn't have time to check this on unity.net, but I texted Reverend Gio. I said, I've never asked anybody this, but I often see heavens plural. And so does heavens plural mean different layers of conscious awareness? Mm. So he directed me to, he didn't really have an answer either. So he directed me to unity.net. I didn't have time to check that, but I will. And I'll email everybody if I find it. So this is going to be my working definition for heavens plural, different layers of our conscious awareness. Hmm. So some people, and you can come up with your own definition if you want to. Some people might feel that it's terribly negative to discuss death. However, a fear of dealing with the subject could well indicate a bondage to it. It could mean that our faith does not include the wholeness of life that transcends death. It could mean that if death comes, it must be a part of that wholeness, not a deviation from it. Jesus said, you will know the truth and the truth will set you free. I like this analogy he uses of the ocean and the wave. And I've used this analogy many times before, but he says it more succinctly than I do. So here is his definition. He says, a wave is the ocean expressing as a wave. It has form and shape and movement. It has identity and uniqueness, but it is no more or less than the ocean. It is a movement within the ocean. a projection of the ocean, which at the same time moves on and through the ocean. So that is us. We are that in God. We cannot. God is constant. So we too are constant. Thus, it is not possible to understand life unless we are willing to look squarely into and through this thing called death. One other thing, and then I'll bring up our slides. Paul said, I die every day. That's 1 Corinthians 15:31. He says, I die every day. And of course, every day the sun sets to mark the close of one day when we retire to bed and give ourselves to restful sleep. The day and all of its concerns are over, but day opens unto night, which in turn opens unto day. At daybreak, there is the return of light, and we plunge into the hope and promise of every new day. So it's like when a person leaves one room and walk into another, we can say that that person has left the room, right? And then a person in that room can say, oh, this person is coming into the room. And both are right. Both are correct. One is leaving, one says their perspective about what's happening is this person is leaving the room, and one in the room says this person is entering the room, and they're both right. So having said that, because this is so good and juicy, let's go to see what Fisher has to say. Could someone read these two paragraphs? Life after death. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on before you read. Hold your roll. Hold your roll. Okay, go right ahead. Who's up? Who's up?
Darcy hasn't read.
I sure haven't.
Darcy, would you like to read?
I can. One moment here. Can you hear me? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Before we begin to think about life after death, it is necessary to come to an understanding of the experience called death. Death seems like such a final thing. In order to conform to the practices of our society, we find it necessary to make all the trying funeral arrangements, even though we may not agree with the practices involved in a contemporary funeral. There are visiting hours, memorial services itself, and the trip to the cemetery. When the committal services at the cemetery is over, it all seems so final. We often even refer to the gravesite as the final resting place. Life is over. Oh, at the time of death, I was thinking about that. I'm sorry, I went into thought.
Okay.
At the time of death, as soon after the soul is believed to leave the body, the part of us that lives on is an unseen self, spiritually, with its own identity. But where does this invisible substance go? Traditionally, we have thought that it goes either to heaven or to hell, depending on the quality of personal behavior.
Okay, that was a bunch. So let's pull this apart a little bit. Darcy,
Yes, ma'am.
What comes up for you when you read? Let's look at that first paragraph.
Okay, I paused because yes, we go through all of that, but I always, to me, in my own personal opinion, is all that is saying goodbye to that person. I know it's traditional because I grew up, this is how they do things, so this is the way it has to be done. But I still look at it as this is more for the living than the person who passed away, because it's like saying giving a person a formal goodbye, which is mostly for us
Yeah.
to say,
Right.
to feel that way. So all these different stages of the funeral and everything is really for those who are still here.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yes, that's what most people say, that the funeral, because out of sometimes guilt and regret, they buy the most expensive casket. They go through a lot of things to try to make amends after the fact. And that's been noted down through the years. But that's just for others attending the funeral.
Yeah, I think that can go both ways. Yeah, like you said, yes, a guilt, or it could be totally the opposite of giving that a person a wonderful, expensive goodbye. But yeah, I think that can go both ways.
Yeah. Anybody else want to comment? All right, well, let's move right along. Okay, who would like to read these two paragraphs? Somebody's raring to, I can just feel it.
I'll read the first and somebody read the second, but let me give you an alternative, and please hear it through before you reject or accept it. It is reincarnation. This is the teaching that the dead person lives. Read that right?
Yeah.
Person lives again as a human being in another human body. The teaching of reincarnation is not foreign to religious thought. It is
Enthusiasm. That's okay.
Yeah, untied tongue, embraced by many of the major world religions, especially the Eastern ones. It is not even foreign to Christianity. As a matter of fact, it is fairly well accepted in Christian thought until the Council of Constantinople in AD 533, when a ruling was made by the church father against it.
Who would like to read the second one?
I'll read.
Okay.
Jesus Christ did not deal directly with reincarnation, but he did refer to it. It was a part of the teachings of the Essenes, a prominent sect of his day. There are some historians who believe that Jesus was an Essene in his thought, if not in fact. Reincarnation, it seems, was one of the accepted ideals of those times. Jesus opposed many of the teachings of the times, but we have no record that he ever repudiated or denied reincarnation.
Now that is a interesting discovery, that from reading about Jesus and his behavior, if he didn't believe something, he wasn't quiet about it. And if it really upset him, he'd turn over a table or two.
Yes.
So if someone was speaking about reincarnation and he did not stop them in their tracks, that says something. Let's see.
Well, on
the second paragraph, I believe the Egyptians, and on that time, believed that that's why they buried that person's treasures and personal belongings with that body, so they can take those things with them to their second life. So all that was a belief system that back in those times and before, that was just a part of that culture back there.
Yes.
Yeah, those graves was robbed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking on this, and It's somewhere in the Bible where it says, once you die, the spirit goes back to the God that giveth. So we're all spirits, right?
Yes.
But we inhabited in a body. So I do believe in reincarnation. And I think your spirit can get sent to another body very easily. I mean, I do. I just have to say, I can't explain it, but I do believe in reincarnation.
Okay.
I think people have a peace of mind knowing that their loved ones or someone very dear to them is going to a good, positive place, even if their spirit is passing on to something else to come, another being to come later. So I believe that people embrace that thought because it makes them feel comfortable knowing that that person is not truly gone.
Well, yeah, that's true too. But I don't think every spirit is reincarnated. I'm not sure. I think there's probably
No.
because it depends on who your spirit go back to. It says it goes back to God.
Exactly.
So
You know,
it.
there's an interesting observation, and this is also in the book, Alternatives. There's an interesting observation recorded by Matthew in which Jesus referred to John the Baptist saying, I tell you that Elijah has already come.
Exactly.
And again in Mark, we read, and they ask him, why do the scribes say that first Elijah must come? And then he said to them, Elijah does come first to restore all things. I tell you that Elijah has come, and they did to him whatever they pleased, as is written of him. It is generally accepted that Jesus was declaring that John the Baptist was one and the same as the reincarnation of Elijah.
I don't think I've heard that before.
Yes, yes. And we also read in Matthew that Jesus asked his disciples, who do men say that the Son of Man is? And they say, some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and others say Jeremiah. And from this statement, we may conclude that reincarnation was a common idea.
Yeah.
Let's see if that's in this part. Yeah, could someone read these two paragraphs, please?
I'll read.
Okay.
In Matthew 16, 13, 14, we read that Jesus asked his disciples, who do men say that the Son of Man is? And they said, some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and others Jeremiah or one of the prophets. From this statement, we may conclude that reincarnation was a common idea. Note that Jesus did not rebuke them for talking nonsense, nor did he condemn the idea. He went on to ask them not who the people said he was, but who they, the disciples, said he was. And Simon Peter replied, you are the Christ. Matthew 16, 16. Life is much like going to school, earth school, and each lifetime can be seen as a grade in our education. We learn the lessons we need to learn, then we move on to the next grade. Ultimately, we will graduate. That is, we will reach perfection. This may be what Jesus meant by saying, you, therefore, must be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect. Perfection surely cannot be attained in one lifetime. Now, that's what I agree. I agree with that.
We come back until we get it right. Let's go back.
Yeah, I like that song by, I can't remember her name now, but she used to sing a song, I'm Not Coming Back Anymore. She had many lives. Oh, what's her name?
Who is it? I want to hear that song.
Oh, yeah. I'll let you know. She used to sing with, what was the crazy man? Rick James. She used to
Tina
partner up.
Marie.
Yeah, Tina Marie. She made that song.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I
Well,
ain't back no more. She said she's tired of it because she got it right this time and she ain't coming back no more. So,
Oh, I love it. Now,
but
to me, this, when I heard this and read about this, it explained what we call old souls. It explained
oh, yes, Debbie.
yes,
people that I have met that I think, oh my gosh, they are so wise and so
Beyond their years.
yes.
yes, beyond their years, and that explained that to me. So that I think is what made me believe in reincarnation.
I think had that ruling not been made by the church fathers during the Council of Constantinople, then maybe Jesus would have spoken about it.
Oh, I
So
know.
real wild tangent right about now because thinking about the things I've read in the Bible where, okay, all of these barren women who couldn't have children seem to be the ones that had the reincarnated children.
Ah,
Like Mary, who was a virgin, she had Jesus, who was classified as the Son of God. And Martha had John the Baptist, who they thought was Isaiah coming back. And there was many barren women in the Bible that had these children that were old souls, as we call it,
yeah.
refer to it. They came back with brilliancy. You know, it's just, that's probably nowhere, but it just clicked in my mind for some reason.
That's a thought.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You could write a book. Okay. Let's see what else we have here.
Interesting.
Okay. Who would like to start? If you accept.
If you accept reincarnation as a viable alternative to what you have previously believed concerning life after death, you can get excited to know that this lifetime is preparation for the next. This gives incentive to grow through whatever challenges you are now encountering. If you learn the lesson of any challenge, you will never have to learn that lesson again, either in this lifetime or in the one to come. This means that subsequent lifetimes will be easier as you move toward the great and final objective. To be perfect as your God in heaven is perfect. Though a radical change from conventional thinking concerning life after death, reincarnation is possible and logical. This makes it an exciting alternative.
So when we first began our class some 5 weeks ago, we talked about our present belief, and we were talking about God. We started off talking about God. And I asked everybody to stand up and to stand at one position in their room that was furthest away from the front door, and giving yourself a span as though we were standing in a spot from 1 to 10, where your belief was about the subject matter at the time was God. And then at the end, we were to stand at a position if our belief had changed. So we've gone now from, by the way, we're going to say something more about that in just a minute, but we've gone now from the subject of God, Jesus Christ, humankind, prayer, worship, baptism, communion, heaven, hell, Satan, sin, and now life after death. And we've been given some alternatives to traditional beliefs. I want you to just think about those subjects. And then I'm going to ask you to not stand up, but to stand in your mind on a scale of 1 to 10, where your belief is now and if it has shifted. So just be kind of sort of having that in the back of your mind. With regards to accepting reincarnation, though, specifically, where are you on that individually? Can you share where you are?
I did.
Totally accept it.
Totally, Maddie. Okay.
Totally accept it. I believe it to be true. It feels right, and I think it's what happens to us.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree too. I believe in reincarnation.
You know, when I first came to Unity, I was not clear on my belief about reincarnation. I wasn't clear at all. And I became more clear, though, as I read and I studied and I listened. And I just can't imagine. I just can't imagine that if we, and I believe we are pure energy, and energy doesn't, you can't cancel it out. You can't destroy it. It always is. It simply changes forms. How then can human beings not reincarnate? It just makes sense to me, like it does to all of you. I guess I'm on the short bus.
I think people don't understand the definition of reincarnation. I think their misunderstanding of it, either they reject it, don't know why they reject, or not knowing why they reject it, or because of a lack of understanding of exactly what is.
A lot of people do reject reincarnation.
They reject that thought because, you know, reincarnation is the rebirth of the soul in a new body. But what, you know, the universe and God is so vast, you know, it may not even be a body here on earth as we know it, that soul transfer over to.
Yeah.
We have no idea what God sends our soul after we have lived this life.
Yeah, on this planet.
Exactly.
I was given to believe it was not true. When I was in my 20s, I was reading a book by this author who was talking about reincarnation. It was a nonfiction. And I just was stunned that this author that I liked was, I was praying for his soul. What is he saying? This is terrible. What is he saying? This is not true. It was my first introduction to it, and it took a while for it to sink in and say, oh, well, wait a minute now. Took a while. But yeah, that was my first, when you first hear about it, when it was something that you were taught was not true, it's rather stunning.
You know, we all know the book, The Prophet. Many of us do anyway.
Yeah.
I can't find the whole quote, but at the end of the book, he says, a little while, a moment of rest upon the wind, and another woman shall bear me.
Oh, that is so
I love
beautiful.
that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I don't remember that.
Is that?
Yeah,
Where is that?
Where does that come
I'm sorry. It's from the book, The Prophet.
Oh, The Prophet.
That's beautiful.
There's a little bit more to it, but that's the meat of it, and I love that.
That is so beautiful.
Yeah. A little while, a moment of rest upon the wind, and another woman shall bear me.
Oh my gosh. Yes, yes, yes. It feels so right. I don't think I have anything on this last slide, but no, I don't. Okay. Well, there's this poem by Victor Hugo. He was a French poet and novelist. And he wrote, I cannot say I have finished my life. My day's work will begin again the next morning. The tomb is not a blind alley. It is a thoroughfare. It closes on the twilight. It opens on the dawn. That is so sweet.
Very sweet.
And what poem is that from?
Let's see. It doesn't give the title of the poem, just that it's by Victor Hugo.
Victor Hugo.
Mm-hmm.
Can you send that to us? Email that to me anyway?
Yes, I will.
Yeah.
I'll send it to all of you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's so beautiful. Okay, I'm gonna play some music, and I'd like for you to take your journals out and let's write about not just tonight's experience, but let's also include the nights before. Let's do like a whole compilation of our experience. If you are willing. We have 32 seconds. Okay. So, taking just a little time to reflect on your experience, would anybody like to share what it's been like? Was it what you expected? What could have made it? What would you like to have had more of or less of? Let's do a little after class sharing.
Okay, I'll go. I thought it was very exciting I missed the sections I did because I thought it was very fulfilling and very thoughtful. And you named it exactly right, ponder this, because I've done a lot of pondering through the sessions I have attended and have enjoyed them immensely. Especially this last session on reincarnation, because I was not brought up to believe in reincarnation, but my soul does believe in reincarnation. It's because basically I've had quite a few of deja vu, I think they call it deja vu, something like that, moments that are unexplainable. It's like I've seen this, I've been here before. When I know I haven't, I can't place a time in my life my current life that I've been in this same experience or seen this same thing or something before. But I get those few moments that makes me think that I've been here before. So, and I think that's what strengthened my belief in reincarnation.
Wow, that's an experience, Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's pretty deep. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Oh, and one other thing I wanted to share, it's this one thing in the Bible I read about. It's about Stephen when he's trying to tell the Pharisees or somebody about Jesus, and they start to stone him. And Paul, who was Saul at the time,
Yeah.
was right there, telling. So, and they started throwing these big bricks and stones at him, and it hurt my soul so bad. I would cry every time I read that passage. And God, it said he put him to sleep. He never mentioned anything about death. He said he put Stephen to sleep.
Yeah.
And so I always pondered, I've never really understood why he said he put him to sleep, because I was kind of very hurtful that God let him stone him like that. And I was like, why? And why not? Is what comes to mind, because bad things happen, but good things come from them.
Yes, always, always. There's a purpose and a reason there's no mistakes, purpose and reason for everything.
Right. And so this has brought a lot of it, opened it up in my mind and brought it to the forefront from me. And I want to go a little further with him being put to sleep, because that to me means that Stephen didn't die. He just went to sleep, and he probably woke back up and was reincarnated into somebody. Well,
Could have been.
I'm just saying. And like the same with Paul when he says, I die daily. Does he just mean he went to sleep daily? We all do.
We all do. Yes. That's what I took from that.
And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome.
Okay, somebody else.
Well, as someone who came to Unity 20 years ago, already holding Unity beliefs, they just didn't have a name.
Yeah.
There wasn't a whole lot new to me in alternatives. It's a wonderful book, and it was wonderfully presented by you, Gigi, as you always do. There's always something to make you think perhaps a little more deeply.
Mhm.
Or again, something that maybe you've put away and
Mhm.
oh, here that is. Yeah, I remember about that.
Yeah.
And it's always good to see people who haven't been through Unity and alternatives have some insights. I always enjoy that. And you asked if there was anything that could be done differently. And my only suggestion would be to time it so that there is a little bit more time for reincarnation, if that's at all
Oh,
possible. Because
yes.
that's such a
Deep and interesting subject.
yeah, and there's so much there, and so many different ways of viewing it and believing it. You know, we can all agree that we believe in it, but most of us can't say, well, this is how I think it works, or this is how I think it works.
Yes.
And I think sharing those ideas certainly is helpful. I mean, what if this? What if what's
Yeah.
going on
Yeah.
here in this life? What is this is death? What if we died and came to
Mhm.
this?
Mm-hmm.
And then we die, you know?
And go
it's-
back.
yeah.
Yes, that's the thought.
So that's my only suggestion, but certainly enjoyed the class and being here,
Thank you. Oh,
even
good.
though I missed one and half of another one.
You're here now. That's all that matters. Anybody else like to share?
I'd like to say that I have a similar experience as Mary. Also, almost 20 years ago, I came to Unity already believing what Unity teaches, and surprised to find there was a place that was teaching what I had come to in other ways. And so reading through and going through this class, I didn't really learn anything new, but enjoyed thoroughly the conversation and the input that people had each week.
Yeah.
And my special favorite was the all of the conversation and discussion on I Am tonight.
Oh, yes, that was good.
It was a good conversation.
Thanks, Maddie.
Well, I also, I came to Unity 17 years ago, and I didn't have all of these thoughts already. I knew I questioned traditional belief, but so when I came to Unity, it was all new to me, but it was comfortable. It was reasonable. It was easy. It just sounded right to me. So studying alternatives was just a good review of what I have learned in Unity. And it's always good to hear other people's discussion in these, types of meetings and classes, what other people have learned and other people's perspective, and what they get out of this. And I don't know that I have any other suggestions, what to do different or better.
Well, thank you, Debbie.
Thank you, Gigi.
Thank you. Darcy, did you want to say anything? And you're muted, Darcy, if you're talking.
Thank you.
Okay.
My bird talks when she hears other people, so I have to stay muted because she'll get into the conversation.
I love it.
No, what I was saying is what Debbie was saying is like I've always enjoyed other people's the way they think and how they perceive different things. The same as I or different from I, because I believe I'm an open person, and I enjoyed meeting all of you. I enjoyed this class. It is a lot to ponder, and I have been enlightened on again how everybody thinks on different various subjects. So that was very exciting to me. It was wonderful class. Gigi, you did a great job putting this together.
Thank you so much. Oh, and Mary has a.
No, I was just answering Darcy's. She sent out that it was the prophet.
Oh, okay.
That's all.
Oh, okay.
I'm so grateful to have had the privilege and opportunity to facilitate this class. It is one of 3 classes that's required for becoming LUT. And I have to tell you, even though I teach as a part of the work that I do, this is a different environment. And I wasn't really sure of myself as I began the class, and as I was journaling along with you all, I wrote, I began this journey with a bit of anxiety about how it would all turn out. Would I be good enough as a facilitator? Would they think I was qualified or not? What happened was, each Tuesday for 5 weeks, I entered into the ponder this zone with a true knowing that God would meet me here. And I feel.
We think you're greatly qualified.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Amen.
You
Amen.
guys just like me, that's why you're saying that.
Well, how do you know that?
You did great under the circumstances that all of this was new to you and
Yeah,
trying to navigate.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've had a few Zoom problems.
Yes. Okay, well,
Thank you.
oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Before we end the evening, I have this song that I really love by Karen Drucker. I'm going to play it, so dance in your seats. I may get up and move, but dance in your seats is called This or Something Better. Have y'all heard this?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I like the name.
Yeah.
Something.
Good name.
Yes. Here we go. Let me see. Wait a minute. Let me make sure I've got that right. Okay, it's 11. Here we go. Can y'all hear it?
Yes.
This or something better is waiting for you, for me. This or something better
is the key that will set my
heart
heart
free.
free. I'm gonna let go of control.
I'm gonna let go of control.
No, I'm not.
I'm gonna get out of my way, Mary.
Will the
I know the universe inspires
to bring me heaven
to bring me heaven
today.
today.
I know that
This better is waiting for me. I know that this or something better
is the key that will set my heart free. I'm tired of playing it small.
I'm tired of playing it small. I'm doing what I think I should.
The universe stands up to give me
Yes.
to claim my
Highest,
form of
my
good.
highest
I
form of
know
good.
that
This
this
or something better
is waiting
for me. I know that this or something better.
is the key that will set my heart free.
Right.
I know it, I claim it, I have it right now.
I know it, I claim it.
I have it right now. I know it, I claim it, I have it right now. I know it, I claim it, I have it right now. And this or something better, is waiting for me. I know that this or something better is the key that will set my heart free. I'm gonna say yes to my dreams.
I'm gonna say yes to my dreams
Let my imagination
and
soar.
let my imagination
I know
soar.
that I have gifts that I must use.
I know I got gifts I must use.
And that is what I was put here for. I know that this or something better is waiting for me. I know that this or something better is the key that will set my heart free. I know it, I claim it, I have it right now. I know it, I claim it, I have it right now. I know it, I claim it, I have it right now. I know it, I claim it, I have it right now. I claim it, I know it, I claim it, I have it right now. I know it, I claim it, I have it right now. I know it, I claim it, I have it right now. I know it, I claim it, I have it right now. I know that this, I claim it, I have it right now. I know it, I claim it, I have it right now. I know that this, I claim it, I have it right now. I know it, I claim it, I wanna be right now. I know that this, I claim it, I have it right now. I know it, I claim it, I have it right now. I know that this, I claim it, something better right now. I know it, I claim it, I have it, you gotta do right now.
Hey,
I know it, I claim it, I have it right now.
now,
Amen.
Amen.
let's say a prayer for our offering. Hold your hands to your heart unless you have your credit card or checkbook in your hand. Okay. Right now, we open our hearts to spirit, knowing that we are prosperous and that we have all that we need. We have more than enough to share with our church. And we are so very grateful for this time having spent together learning about alternatives to traditional Christian beliefs. For this and other blessings, we say thank you, God. And so it is, and so we allow it to be. Amen. All right.
Thank
so
you,
now-
Gigi.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Call our church or text or email or do something and offer a donation at your convenience. Love you guys.
Love you.
Love you.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Have a
Bye.
good
Nice evening.
Bye for now.
Bye.